All right. We've got a special edition of our podcast. We're having I don't know if illustrious is the right word, but the man, the myth, the legend, John Hesse. The reason that I'm actually in this community in the first place, back on because he was our first guest, and this is our 100th episode. So a great opportunity to look back over the past, hard to believe it's been over 6 years already. I think the pandemic might have had something to do with that being a bit of a blur on really, where we were when we started, what's gone on since that first podcast, and maybe where we're going now. But if you can, just for the guests, if they don't know, I actually think whenever we did this the first time, I don't even think you guys were Carle. That might have been like one of the updates that you were switching. But just a little bit about your background, who you work for,
Sure.
what you do.
Yeah, happy to, and appreciate you having me back on to be a part of the 100th version, episode. First and 100th, so maybe if I'm lucky, you'll get me back for the 200th. But Patrick, thank you. It's always good to talk to you. As you mentioned, my name's John Hesse. I'm the Vice President for Business Development at Carle Health. When we did this the first time, I was exclusively representing the Bloomington-Normal community. Now I have the pleasure of adding the greater Peoria market at that sphere. So like you, I've kind of tried to broaden my influence, but certainly my representation of as large of a service area as Carle will permit me to do. So I'm going on, well, technically year 5 with Carle, as that was an acquisition in 2020, but I've been sitting at this desk in Broman for about 15 years.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, and if I recall, like was it Iowa? Like you were a football player, and because isn't there a Buffalo Wild Wings has like flags up on your behalf? Because I never understood like why that flag exists there.
That is all fiction, except for, yes, I played football. Yes, I got a graduate degree from Iowa, but those two did not intersect.
Okay.
I played football in Northern Illinois.
Oh, that's right, Husky. Yeah.
My hometown is Iowa City. My colleague, who is still within the Carle world, was a football player at Iowa, so we can exchange a few war stories, but his are much, much larger than mine. But
larger scale. Well, as a Notre Dame grad, I mean, the Huskies did beat Notre Dame last year, which was
that's true.
That trap game. So don't sell yourself short on the Huskies. So yeah, if we can just kind of go back, I guess, like in the beginning, I think we got the podcast equipment set up, something to do during the pandemic because we wanted to tell the whole story. From my experience in this industry, you'd see a golden shovel or someone would cut a ribbon and there'd be a little blurb about what happened. I'm like, there's way more people involved in getting a project across the finish line. And this is a great way to talk about projects, talk about local businesses, and really give like an inside look just at economic development, because for most people, it's like a black box. Like we all get together and then like something happens and they think that it happened overnight, when sometimes I had a project that literally took 10 years that I closed in the end. And some of them, I think the first project we might've did was Contech out by the airport. So it's one that's across the street. They had the back half of it had just vacated. They had contacted us and said, hey, like we like the location, but we don't know if you have the workforce. And so it was our job to let them know, like, it's not just our workforce, and kind of like how you're, involved with Peoria now, there's a lot of commuting back and forth. So this is a great opportunity to show them the overall labor shed and how we borrow people. And that map was enough to get them to say, okay, that combined with your students is a good opportunity for us to open up shop, and they're still going strong today.
Yeah.
And also, like with you going over to Peoria now, it's kind of it's interesting because each EDO, economic development organization, does things a little bit differently. And so now you're getting a taste of, how my friend over Chris Setti does in Peoria. And even Casey Peterson, my former staff, who we just announced today is coming on our board. So he's over at Ameren. So that'll be fun to get the gentle giant back in the house. But he will, being in his role in Ameren, now he gets to see EDOs all over the state. So it's great. I always say that everything is relative. And like we I think within our own community, don't fully appreciate all the growth and the investment until you go to another community and you're like, oh, it's not quite like that here.
Yeah. Well, I would never suggest that I'm an expert, but I'm trying as quickly as I can to learn more and more about the federal trade zone.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Peoria, manages, and again, I won't even get into it because I'll lose myself. But to your point, it's been a really eye-opening to experience life within the greater Peoria community. Obviously, I've lived here for 25 years. Some of the obviously lots of similarities, lots of differences, specifically when it comes to economic development. But I think regardless, what it says perhaps for both of us is how important our neighboring communities are to one another, whether it is, as we've talked so many times, additional housing,
Yes.
The ability to really commute, which our friends in the suburbs, it's no problem,
Yeah,
right? But more and
that's life.
more as I drive over to Peoria, I-74 is pretty busy.
It is.
It's 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. So people are doing it. And if we can produce the jobs, it'd be great if we could produce the homes. But if we can't, it's nice to know that we've got that geographic reach.
Yes. Yeah. Central location is one of our biggest strengths. And one of the fun things about coming back down from Chicagoland, again, everybody up there, it's in the culture. You commute. That's just part of it. And it's a very long commute. Well, here, it's an easier sell because you can literally go a mile a minute. And that's not the case up there.
Right.
So it's been also great, though, to work with Chris and Carly over in Champaign, Nicole down in Decatur, and Ryan over in Springfield. And we've got this coalition where at least a couple of us try to get to shows so we can market regionally and sell locally. Great partners, because anytime they win, we benefit. It's really, back in the day, everybody's like, well, it's us against Peoria. And I'm like, no, it's really us against Dallas. Like, it's got nothing to do with this region. Right. It's state by state now. And other states are getting really aggressive on the incentives, and we're still operating under the tax break side. So a win for them is a win for us. You don't want to have the opposite where things are going down, because momentum can change everything. And you did mention housing, and it was interesting because actually a couple of us from Central Illinois, the Central Six, we were up in Chicago at a site selection conference. I think it was last week. And all the site selectors said the same thing. They're like, the first community that can solve housing costs, childcare costs, and also transportation costs is going to win. And right now, that's all the things that I think everyone in Central Illinois is focused on, because we do have a lower cost of living, but also we're so short on houses right now. And I think specifically here in Bloomington-Normal, we've seen the spike in prices. Like if you do a comp on Zillow, what an average house here costs compared to Peoria or Champaign, I can see why so many people commute.
Yeah. I would, you made a comment. I think you said kind of married to the community or something to that effect. And I'm certain that every one of your guests or every local employer would have their own version of this comment. And I will certainly, I'm speaking on behalf of Carle only when I say this, which is we are so rooted in this community, we can't and don't want to and shouldn't pack up and move, right? We don't have the ability to move a corporate office or to build a new plant, if you will, in another market that's more favorable based on taxes. We're not going anywhere. So we are very codependent on folks like you, Patrick, and what you're able to do with an economic development to bring industry, to bring employers to community, to help create and support jobs. We are here at the mercy, if you will, of our respective communities. I mean, I think that's sort of the nature of healthcare. If you look at any healthcare marketing or advertisement, it somehow incorporates the word local or close to home. Yeah. Almost every one of them, it's almost like we've all gone to the same agency, or firm to produce marketing. So, your ability to grow our population is the best possible thing that you could do for the healthcare industry. So keep going.
Yeah, no, that's, I think if you look at the NAICS code, there's 17 different codes for every single industry, and they put you and education right in the same area, because I think that's why you guys are both really dependent upon everybody else. And that's why coming here, I remember a lot of people right off the bat were like, hey, can you get distribution? And I'm like, I'm coming from Chicagoland. Trust me, you don't want a lot of distribution, because I don't want trucks on Veterans Parkway. I want more manufacturing. I want to diversify and get more into the tech side of things. And luckily, that's actually what's happened since then. I think we're doing okay when it comes to economic development, because we're averaging, like 2,000 jobs a year and $1 billion for the past 6 years, which is kind of insane for anywhere else. And I still stand by that. If Rivian, as it is today, announced we're doing $6 billion and we're creating this many jobs, it'd be the biggest news in America. But because when I got here, they had 300 employees and they slowly grew, then it's not as big of a shock. And even around here, people are like, it's not a big deal until you drive out there and you're kind of like, oh, wow, that's really big. But it's kind of an out of sight, out of mind. Same with Ferrero being on the edge of town, which is what I like, and all their growth, and us getting the first North American chocolate factory basically out by my house has been awesome. And then that went so well, they added the Kinder Bueno lines. We've done really good at expansions and getting the new businesses in, like the Context. It has been a challenge. Like there's been data centers that are really close, but there's always something on the outside, whether it's state policy that's changing, energy costs fluctuating, even the tariffs, we're kind of waiting for that to settle down because people get interested. And then there's a little bit of uncertainty. Also for us, we're waiting for Rivian to finish because they came to us and said, we might get to 500, maybe 1,000. Then that kept jumping up to 6,000, 8,000. And I'm like, how big are you going to get? Because that's really, we know internally what you're doing, but I have other companies growing too. And so we're all fighting for the same workforce. And I think that's been the concern and why we were screaming for housing. Like, somebody build. I almost quit my job and started building houses myself because I knew what was coming, but we weren't allowed to share what was coming. So we're kind of in a pickle. But I mean, good news. Jason Barrickman and Fairlawn's got a wonderful project going up there on the north side. There's the other one north of the Country Club that's coming from Holiday. Those are other fellow Notre Dame grads working on that one. That'll be 7 buildings. And then the one I'm most excited about, though, is the former State Farm building in downtown Bloomington. And they're revitalizing that, putting a restaurant on the top floor.
Oh, wow.
Like, I like taking care of your existing buildings instead of what we traditionally do in America is just knock something down and, you know, build something new. I was like, I like that mix. So that'll be a good project to go downtown as well. Yeah.
Well, you know, that's a little bit of kind of how we see from within the lens of healthcare. Some antiquated buildings, obviously, we tend to be rooted in an inpatient or basically specific hospital location rather than having a lot of sort of hubs, if you will. And of course, there's a lot of signage for Carle as you drive around the market, and we're going to continue to do that, right? We're going to continue to look to update buildings. We're going to continue to look to add services to town so that folks aren't having to travel. There are certainly services that aren't in that high of demand, that maybe it's not a full-time opportunity, but it prevents people from having to leave work, give up an entire day, drive to Chicago, drive to an out of market area, Peoria, etc., and to be able to stay here. And so to add services, to modernize facilities where necessary, those are certainly things that we are always discussing. But I think when we get back from an economic development standpoint, that to me speaks very much to quality of life, access to services, specifically access to care. But circling back to a comment you made a second ago, as I was sort of woe was meing that we can't go anywhere, we're going to be in McLean County forever, which is great. You very astutely brought forward the colleges, and same kind of scenario. They've got online schooling, we've got tele. We've got to do whatever we can to reach our customers, but they are our best supplier, as you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, workforce.
Each program is producing has a nursing school or a physical therapy program or getting into rad tech space. Carle has the Methodist College of Nursing over in Peoria, which is going to be a huge funnel for us as we recruit and try to retain folks to stay in market, right? So our partnership across all academic locations, the U of I in Champaign, huge. And we know that it's a constant battle of people come here for school and try to vacate. But trust me, we have jobs for them. Obviously, in many cases, skilled jobs. And so that tends to be the rub. We're always looking for positions who are going to kind of adhere to that 24/7 operation that we so affectionately call it. But we've got plenty of opportunity for work here, but acknowledge the colleges. We are so codependent upon them, keep nursing, et cetera, in town. So.
Yeah, that's another update that we've had since the podcast started was the new nursing school update that ISU put in. And they're also, adding the engineering school. So in a lot of communities or colleges, their enrollment's going down. And I think Illinois Wesleyan and ISU has had record freshman enrollment the last couple of years as everybody gears up for this enrollment cliff. Because if you just look at the overall Illinois State report card on population by grade, there's almost like a wave of students going through high school right now. And so everybody's trying to prepare what happens when those kids aren't there. And again, our central location, I think, is what brings a lot of kids here. But the fact that we've got 25,000 college students here and a lot of them are nurses, it's like, how do we make this a place for them to want to stay? And I think we've done that. Right. I think the quality of place, and that's the other beauty about, your industry. You're also, you're a major employer, but you're also on the quality of place thing. So whenever we're recruiting other major employers, healthcare always comes up. Sometimes it's a simple line of how many hospital beds do you have? What type of services do you offer? So the more you offer, the easier it is for us to sell, to attract and retain talent. So it's all tied together, but still all this kind of goes back to, if you want to keep those kids, it's got to be affordable. I've told the story that, my daughter just went to DePaul and her place up there is cheaper than some of the places here. And that's in Chicago, which makes no sense. But I think it's because we grew so quick So now we're playing catch up, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, no, I believe you, and I agree. We got to get there. So if we're gonna support the graduates, if we're gonna support continued economic and workforce growth, we have to have those types of housing. And I get it. I think you and I have talked about this before, right? Is many of the folks moving to town probably don't ever want to buy a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Yep. Other than having a fenced in yard to keep my dogs from running down the street, I don't want a lawnmower.
Right. Yeah.
But that to me, and you would know so much better than I would, what's the availability, what's the supply look like in that particular arena, and is that really where we're headed? And if so, great. I think if I remember correctly, the sort of the initial, if not the continuating influx of Rivian folks were not coming from traditional Midwestern cities.
No.
That's something they were accustomed to, and I appreciate that. Easier said than done, right? But maybe that gets back. And I don't know if I've heard you say Central 6 before, but I like that. And clearly how reliant you are on one another when you look at those markets, as we are. And Carle is in Champaign and Bloomington and Peoria, Eureka and Hoopston, and other locations. And so we are a commuter employer just like everybody else.
Yes. So. Yeah, you're a base employer, and I think the official name of our group is the Mid-Illinois Collaborative. We had just in the beginning, the draft name was Central 6 because it was easy to say, but Mid-Illinois Collaborative kind of outlines like, yes, this is who we are. But no, it's been fantastic, and they have a lot of the same challenges we do. I think that our growth and investment has been much higher than most of theirs, but it's common language, and they're economic development pros too. So it's great to go on the road with them and talk about all of our wins and actually, putting Illinois back on the map, because for a long time, I think Illinois was more reactive, and we've had a lot of wins recently, and the governor's office has created new tools for us to compete against other states. I mean, it's pretty public that we were in the running for Samsung, and then Samsung battery manufacturing ended up in Indiana, and everybody said, why are they in Indiana? And I'm like, well, go look at their tools and their package compared to ours. At the end of the day, they can pick where they go, and in an Excel spreadsheet, and if it makes more financial sense to go over there, they're going to do it. And so they took that to heart. They didn't want to lose. They created new programs, and then we started winning. So, there's still possibility of getting battery manufacturing. We'll see with all the popping up around us, but that whole industry's changed as well. So I think it's just really paying attention to where things are going. I'm trying to adapt to it on the fly a lot of times. And, we do work with governments, federal, state, and local, which can be slower, not as reactive as, some small entrepreneurs. But we're trying to do our best, and I think it's working. And again, we always try to do the best we can with the information that we have. And then all of a sudden, things change. Like I remember when I started here, I was telling everyone to learn how to write code because that was the future in AI. And then now all of a sudden, AI is writing code, and the coder's like, well, what do I do? So it is an ongoing battle, but it's something that we're all dealing with. And we'll see what's coming with the autonomous vehicles and how that'll impact logistics and just AI in general and robotics. Like a lot of the investment that we've seen here in Rivian and Ferrero, it's an amazing how much money it is compared to how many jobs it's created. So it's not labor intensive, it is machinery intensive.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know why I'm choosing to speak about subject matter that I'm not far from an expert in, but you brought up AI and the thought of AI replacing jobs. Depending on how you define AI, depending on what industry in which you reside, you could argue in healthcare that we have no choice but to go to AI because we cannot find the people to do the work.
Yeah.
From what I would argue is a very good use of AI, where we have ambient listening, which is a tool we use in our physician clinics so that it's hearing the conversation between the physician and the patient, and it's helping with documentation and make sure we're capturing exactly what's happening within that physician-patient visit. That's one end of it. And again, depending on how you define it, the autonomous vacuum and floor scrubber that you see at a grocery store or see in a hospital because we can't find enough people to do that work.
Sure.
And that's a pretty wide spectrum. I acknowledge that, but I do expect healthcare to push that envelope more and more and more, not wanting to put too much between the provider and patient, but certainly starting where we're having a workforce or cost control issues and that sort of thing. But as we always say, we're accepting, we're supportive. We're just not going to be first to market. Let kind of trial it, and we'll climb in after after a few years, perhaps.
There's proof of concept. Yeah. What is it? Necessity is the father of innovation. And, like you and I, we're Gen X. Our generation's tiny compared to the boomers. And as they move on, there's not enough of us. But then behind that, there's a bigger group, but they don't have the experience. And yeah, workforce, it's nationwide. And so that's why there's been so much investment in AI, but then also in the data centers to run all this AI. So it's been fascinating to watch. But even I was told 5 years ago at a conference that all economic developers will be replaced by AI too. So it's like, get ready. And I'm like, well, I want to write that AI. I don't want to be replaced by it. So I think it is, how can we, like, I don't think AI will replace people. It'll be people with AI replacing other people that aren't with AI.
Sure.
So yeah, we use it regularly. And for us, it's just trying to, how do we get more information out of this black box where people have to come to us and just get it online so that they can do it themselves? Whether you're starting a business, doing a site search, whatever, it's just making it easier to do business. I think that's our role. That's just create an environment where businesses and individuals want to invest with the idea that you're growing wealth in the economy for all. And that's where, we've sort of done that here because there's been a lot of growth. We have a good environment, but all that growth has created problems. Just like a small business, you can grow too fast and you can't keep up. I think our community is starting to do the same thing. And so as we get close on some of these other projects, and they're big projects, it's like, if we do win, what do we do? Because I'm like, are we creating more problems by adding more demand for the workforce we're already fighting for? Like that's been the conundrum of the industry.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all good. It's all, everyone keeps saying, good problems to have.
Yeah. I'd love to say that too, and I'm going to stick with that for the time being. But obviously, they're problems.
Yeah.
Good or otherwise, right? And we got to solve them. And I appreciate all you're doing and trying to lead the community through that. It's been a while since I actually got to sit around the table with you in the think tank around the EDC. I certainly miss those days. You made reference to the Peoria. I've had an opportunity to kind of engage with the group over there. It's you're kind to ask me on here to kind of rehash all this sort of thing. It might be a little bit more enjoyable if we had a bourbon in our hand, but some other time.
That's a different podcast. Yeah.
We'll take that one eventually.
Well, speaking of bourbon, like I remember last time, one of the things we always ask is like, what's the one food thing? And I think we joked offline, like, is still your number one thing, despite all the chicken wars in town, is still that farm to face roll over at Epiphany? Or
it's definitely up in the tops, and that helps because my entire family loves it. When you're trying to seek out that restaurant that everybody will do. But I genuinely, when I think about my favorite foods, anything local, which is not to knock all the other great restaurants and industry we have, but anything that takes me to the downtown or uptown, it just kind of gets me out, thinking about something that affords me the opportunity even to sit outside. Love going to Rosie's, love going, as you mentioned, Anjou above, love hanging out at Biaggi's and Ancho, especially if I can get outside. But I love going to Gill Street and just kind of being on, quote unquote, on the beach.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of. But and this time of year is the best time of year to do it if there's college football on the screen and you're just kind of, I get it. You want to watch Notre Dame. I'm more likely to root against Notre Dame, but love their coach.
Like most people. Yeah, coach is
just
good.
Got coaches that are fans that maybe I'm rooting against them more than I'm rooting against the Irish.
Yeah, I mean, we can be obnoxious sometimes. It's an ongoing joke. I know that you're still, like, you don't do CrossFit, but I remember that was a joke. It's like, what is someone who graduated from Notre Dame and CrossFit, like, what's their biggest issue? And it's like trying to decide which one they're going to say first. All good. Well, yeah, that's all I really want to cover is just catch up, just talk about like what's happening, where we're going, things to be aware of. And I think AI is definitely something to pay attention to, the challenges with the workforce. But the good news is, like, your EDC, like, we're here working on those. We know we're paying attention to what's coming, and we have different tactics in mind that go into our strategic plan. And that's also something we're working on right now. So we have a survey that's out for all of our investors to complete. And then all those results will be presented at our October 31st Be In By the Numbers, which is for investors only, where the investors actually rank those. And then once they're ranked, we present them to board in December for approval. And that is how we get next year's plan. So we'll see how it evolves. But it's been interesting even to watch the annual strategic plan feedback change. Like, things, it used to be in the beginning as like, state of Illinois is the number one issue, they have to change the image. Well, that's not really there anymore. It's shifting direction. So everything, just like our rapid growth in manufacturing has shifted the workforce around here, same thing with the SWOT analysis and what we're working on. Before, we never touched housing. And in the past, people have always said, don't do retail. Well, that's becoming more and more of a topic as well. It's like, well, why aren't you guys doing retail? We've got this mall.
Right.
And I'm like, if you want us to do the mall, you got to tell us to do retail. Then I will go attack that mall. So we'll see if that gets in the next year's plan. But yeah, I just see a prime property sitting over there that's got much better use than what it is.
Yeah, I don't know how best to ask for forgiveness and permission works in your world, Patrick. But I'd be remiss if I didn't just again thank you for everything you've been doing. I did have the pleasure of sitting on the board, and although technically I was the sitting president when we hired you, I think all thanks probably goes to Tim Gleason. So whether he's in Washington or Decatur or the city of Decatur, wherever he might be, thanks Tim. But I think about the strategic planning work you do. I'm still fairly familiar with most of the folks that sit around your board table, and you've done a great job of getting a good cross representation. We talk about in healthcare the skill of herding cats, right? When you deal with all the different vested interests. And my guess is it's not a whole lot different from you. I think and I suspect others try not to bring a healthcare, a banking, an insurance, a agricultural bias to the room. It's difficult. When you think, well, what is the betterment of Bloomington-Normal, the greater McLean County area economic development? And I do believe we're generally on the same page, but I have the luxury of returning back to the hospital and worry about my problems, where you've still got to worry about the greater economic development of Bloomington-Normal and the surrounding community. So thank you for that, I guess is where that winded.
No, like herding cats is a great way to summarize it. And this is my first, it's been 6 years, but first go around in a Twin City. And I've had to go, get counsel from my other economic developers that are in Twin Cities as well. I'm like, is this really a thing? Because 2 universities, 2 municipalities, 2 hospitals, it's like two malls, there's 2 of everything. And our role, we're in the middle because we have labor on the board, and we've got the private sector, we have education, like everybody's here. 2 high schools, 2 school districts. So getting everyone to agree is why strategic planning is so important, because at that point, we all have an opportunity to say what we think. If there's anything else left unsaid, I'm like, okay, well, we're all agreeing as a group, this is what we're working on. And then we just always point back to that plan. So we kind of eliminate the side quests, or try to. They still pop up here and there, but it's like, if you want us to do it, get it on the plan. And it's been pretty effective.
Yeah.
So
well, good.
Appreciate all the kind words as well.
It all.
Hopefully someday get you back on the board. Because it's as we transition from healthcare to healthcare, but like we can't have all healthcare or all education or all anything.
Understood.
Or making a board as big as what it was. I think before I got here, it was like up to 40 people or something, which that'd be a weird meeting.
If you ask and there's a need, I'm absolutely willing. So, but awesome. I'll be patient.
Cool. Very good. Awesome. Thanks for coming on today. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
I think I'm all good, Patrick. Thanks for the time.
Very cool. Appreciate it.